Come take a tour of my very lazy garden, and perhaps you'll pick up a few tips along the way about how you can be a better lazy gardener too. This is probably gonna be a little... Do you mind? What would you like to share with us, guys? What? You're about to see some tool care no-nos, but some productivity yes-yeses. As someone who is extremely forgetful, one productivity hack that I have implemented everywhere in my life is getting duplicate tools and putting them where I use them all the time. So I leave these tools out in the weather. They're probably gonna rust and get ruined, but no problem because I found them in garage sales. The thing is, having the tool that I need, when I need it, where I need it, is the best possible thing that I could do. Along that same line of thought, my compost system, which needs to be monitored on the regular, is along my walking path. I see it every day. I see the thermometers. I know when to stir it. I know when to do the stuff. It's conveniently located right next to my barn, and also very conveniently next to my garden where I actually use the compost. Another little thing, since I'm out here, is having interchangeable hoses and other things that are in my way that I'm using on a regular basis. So instead of having to unscrew a whole bunch of different hose bibs for different purposes, I have this awesome quick change system that allows me to go from a nozzle to a faucet in about 1 second flat, which is pretty convenient. So put things in your way, along your way, and you're going to save yourself a whole lot of time and remember a whole lot of things that you should probably be doing on the regular. As we re-enter the garden, you'll see a lot of wood mulch and sawdust and other wood products. A lot of gardeners are going to tell you that that is going to rob all of the nitrogen and nutrients out of your soil. But for me, as a lazy gardener, this is the secret to me never having to do anything in my garden. Wood acts as a sponge when there's excess moisture. So when it rains, or the 5 times a year that I actually water my garden, it soaks up all the water and then it slowly releases it into the soil around it as it dries out. And this is what is holding the moisture in my soil and giving me absolute watering freedom, so that right now we are in the middle of a drought in Tennessee. I haven't watered my garden at all this year, and we have lush growth everywhere that you look, thanks in most part to these wood chips. The nitrogen and or nutrient loss that you see from using wood chips is extremely temporary and very easily offset by using compost, which I do regularly, and by planting nitrogen fixing plants like beans, which you are going to see all over my garden, mostly because I let them all go to seed last year and now we have a bunch of volunteers, but also because wherever I see them pop up, I put them places where they're going to be useful. And as you can kind of see, there's not really any nutrient loss that we're dealing with here in the garden, despite about 10 truckloads of wood mulch and sawdust that I'm using for my wood shop on a regular basis. There are definitely species of wood that you don't want to use. Exotic hardwoods are a big no-no. Things with toxic glues, pressure-treated hardwoods. You definitely don't want any of those things in your garden because they're toxic to start, so we don't want that breaking down and getting into our food source. I accidentally just alluded to one of my other tips, and that is that letting things go to seed is a great way to be a lazy gardener, because you accidentally get a whole bunch of plants out of letting your plants go to seed. So literally all of these beans, all of this dill, all this happened on accident because I let them go to seed before I harvested them last year. So this is last year's laziness paying dividends again this year. Alternatively, however, we want to be really careful not to let weeds go to seed. So while I don't spend basically any time weeding my garden, if I'm walking through and harvesting or trimming or doing whatever else that I do in my garden, if I see a weed that is starting to go to seed, I will pull it out and put those seeds in my pocket and get them the heck out of the garden so that they don't do what this dill and these beans and that amaranth has so beautifully done for me already. And speaking of weeds, there's actually a few lessons we can get from the weeds that are growing in our garden. First off, we want to see what kinds of weeds are actually growing in our garden, because if there is a desirable plant that we want to grow and there's a weed that is similar growing in our garden already, well, hey, Our weeds have told us this is already an ideal growing condition for this weed related or weed tangential or weed adjacent. Yeah, this weed adjacent species that we could actually want. So here's a great example. These dandelions are actually non-seeding dandelions that I intentionally planted, believe it or not. Dandelions have deep taproots that tend to break up the soil. They bring nutrients from deep down in the earth up to the top layers. So this non-seeding variety of dandelions was a great way to break up some of this clay soil and get something that I actually wanted from something that was already kind of growing here. One of the biggest no-nos for lazy gardeners is to have bare soil. Bare soil gets dry super easily, which requires a lot of watering and other maintenance, but it also erodes really quickly. So if we have a windy day or a hot season, all of our good topsoil is going to literally fly away in the wind. And we can very easily mitigate that disaster by adding wood chips and other organic matter, but also doing what I like to call the chop and drop method. So this rhubarb, for example, when I come to pick rhubarb, I cut off the top leaves and then I place them around the bottom of the plant so that they can then decompose, add some of these nutrients back into the soil around it, but also just keep that soil nice and moist so I don't ever have to come back and water. And since we are right here by my rhubarb, which by the way I am extremely proud of because it is very difficult to grow rhubarb in a hot climate like this, and this is my third year in a row trying to create ideal circumstances for it, and I finally have, so it's great. I'm very excited about it. But this leads me to another tip. If you want to be a good lazy gardener, plant perennials or plants that grow back every single year. Speaking of perennials, in Tennessee, dahlias are pretty much perennials because their tubers rarely rot over the winter here. But this is kind of a great lazy gardener, do as I say and not as I do thing. But you want to think about how you're going to trellis your plants in advance. So I have kind of loosely planted these around this trellis that I know I can tie them to, but even more ideal would be if I put them in cages to start and never had to come back and tie them up. One really important thing for most, vegetation is that it gets plenty of airflow, and tying things together like this that I'm having to do after the fact isn't the best way to keep that happening. A lot of leaves touching each other is going to be a really good opportunity for some funguses and diseases to really just take root on these plants. And so this is going to be fine. I can clip off whatever isn't healthy on this plant. But if you think ahead a little bit better than I did in this particular instance, you can save yourself a lot of time and effort later on. This one is a twofer, if you'll come along with me. So, you'll see here a whole bunch of kale and other brassicas. I plant extra of every plant that I'm planting, knowing that if I'm not here regularly to fertilize, to care for, to water, to do all of the things that need to be done, I'm inevitably going to lose a significant portion of these things to pests, diseases, fungus, rot, whatever else. However, because I've planted plenty, I know that I have enough to give a little bit to the pests, to the disease, to the rot, and everything else. Also, because I'm not monitoring regularly, sometimes things can get a little out of hand, and that's where this little vacuum comes in very handy. You can see right here that I have a significant beetle and cabbage worm infestation going on. So rather than trying to use chemicals or anything else, I'm literally just going to vacuum them all up. I'll take the worst of the worst, where I'm definitely going to have missed some stuff with my vacuum, and give it to the chickens because they can then eat the pests and everything else off of the leaves and turn that into some delicious and nutritious eggs. But I want to be really careful as I'm walking through the garden with these leaves not to shake them around a ton and shake those pests off onto other plants. We've got some beetles. The thing is that most of these pests are pretty seasonal, so if I can get a plant to survive through one infestation or another, then it will usually end up thriving. So rather than pulling infested plants right off the bat, I tend to kind of give a little, get out of here. Ringo, absolutely not. Ringo, absolutely not. Young man, please exit the premises, thank you. But would you perhaps like a little leaf? Ringo, you want it? Here, Ringo. There you go. So coming back in. All right. When my vacuum is full of these little pests, I empty it into this disgusting concoction of Dawn dish soap and horrible odors. And that lets the pests just have a beautiful afterlife. That's not in my garden. Here's another really great example that we as lazy gardeners can glean from. If I really want to be hands-off with my plants, I want to plant plants that are going to be successful, and I want to cull plants that aren't. So literally, as sad as it is to pull this cabbage plant, it is damaged by pest and disease to the point that it's not going to recover. It's stunted in growth. It's not going to ever get big. It has too much damage. So rather than letting this be a place where the pests continue to matriculate and where diseases continue to get spread, I'm going to just pull this out of my garden entirely, get rid of it, and not try to waste a bunch of time trying to save a sick or dying plant, and instead plant something that I know is going to thrive here instead. All right, come with me over here. This is probably going to be a little controversial, but if you want to be a truly great lazy gardener, stop testing your soil. Here's the thing. Your soil tests are fantastic. They give you tons of data and analytics, and if you're just getting started, it's nice to know where you're at. But if you're anything like me and you're constantly adding different kinds of mulch, different kinds of compost, and all kinds of other things to your soil can change literally from foot to foot in your garden. So a far better test of your soil is your actual plants that are in it. So take a look at this apple tree. These leaves are extremely light green. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on with this plant, and this right here is a very clear indicator that this tree needs some nitrogen, aka some fertilizer, stat. If you're new in your gardening journey and you don't know these indications already by heart, that's totally fine. There are tons of free plant identification apps online that will tell you exactly what plant you have, which is pretty helpful for me because I often forget what I've planted where. But they'll also tell you what's wrong with your plant. Are you watering it too much? Does it have too much sunlight? Is it being attacked by a certain fungus or disease? So as I'm walking through my garden, I'm looking for things like this, red flags that I need to do something stat. Or as I'm sitting here, I'm literally seeing tons of little larvae for vine borer beetles, and I just happen to be walking by, so I'm gonna grab off these little leaves and drop them in my Dawn dish soap liquid as I'm leaving the garden too, because why not? Just do a little garden maintenance as I happen to be walking by, but not taking a ton of time out of my busy schedule to do it. One thing as a lazy gardener that I absolutely abhor doing is pulling weeds. And here's the thing, I try to do that as infrequently as possible. So you'll notice that we're coming upon a nice little cloister of weeds right here. But because these are not actually impeding any of the plants that I want to grow in this space, I'm actually thankful for them because their roots are breaking up my Tennessee clay soil. They are maintaining a ton of moisture. They're creating airflow within the soil. These are the weeds back here. And aside from these being a bit of an eyesore, I'm really not worried about them being here because they're not stealing nutrients from any other plants or doing anything nefarious to the rest of my stuff. as we walk through here, I want you to look at the garden beds themselves. Wherever I've found weeds or other things, I've just chopped and dropped them, hoping that they'll add to the moisture retention and the nutrient density of the soil below them. And as you can see, everything's doing pretty dang great. The best lazy gardeners get very good at ignoring weeds and letting their garden go unwatered. Plants are extremely good at telling us exactly what they need when they need it. If they are crusty and crinkly and about to die, yeah, we should give them a quick sip of water. But the rest of the time, we should let them send their roots deeper and learn how to find their own water. We have some weeds that are really persnickety here in Tennessee, and one of those is crabgrass and other rhizome spreading grass. When I absolutely have to, I'll smother some weeds with cardboard. Cardboard breaks down really quickly. It doesn't have a bunch of toxic, gross stuff in it. These raspberries are a great way to practice self-restraint when it comes to watering. Yes, these leaves are really curly and yucky, which means that they are probably pretty thirsty. But they've got beautiful green growth here, which lets me know that these raspberries are still growing and still healthy. So instead of watering them, I want to starve them of water and encourage them to send deeper roots down into the ground so that they can rely on the ground for its water instead of relying on me for their water, which will ultimately make some healthier plants. In 2012, I was a city dweller who didn't know anything about any of this, but I have chronicled my entire journey from planting my very first seed and doing my very first woodworking project on my Squarespace website, anneofalltrades.com. If you're interested in learning more about homesteading or doing more things yourself or becoming more self-sufficient, check out that website and you can find all those articles there. Squarespace is a fantastic platform for someone like me who is not super tech savvy, who's also very busy and doesn't want to spend a lot of time in front of a screen, to be able to very easily drag and drop everything that I want to share with the world into a beautiful artist design template that then shares it with the world. If you're interested in starting a website of your own, check out Squarespace, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AnneofAllTrades and you can get a 10% discount. Truly the best advice I can give any aspiring lazy gardener is to really work on improving your soil health. Healthy soil produces healthy plants that are a whole lot more pest and disease resistant. It doesn't need to be watered as much, and ultimately it can feed your family with very little inputs from you as well. If you are interested in learning more about healthy soil, check out my video, Fix Your Soil. I will see you there. Cheers!